Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back. I want to get going again on developments around the world. In fact, where fascism is getting its spread, and been watching, of course, news that has. I hope to get it current. I do have a lot of history that I would like to talk about, but it's Canadian history, and in Canada we don't really have democracy anymore. Our present prime minister, he is a dictator. He refuses to answer questions in the Parliament of Canada. He gets other people to avoid it, doesn't want to talk. This is not the democratic process as it's supposed to be done. And I notice now that it has crept into American politics. We have the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, who is on the campaign trail. I watched his recent talks. He's getting fairly large crowds, not as big as they used to be. But he's calling out Donald Trump. Now, normally, a former president does not get involved, but this president is very, very involved. And he has an office only 1 mile down the road from the White House. He did not move away. You know, usually a president who's done their terms, and it's very interesting. Presidents used to do a 4-year term. Now, recently, there have been 8-year terms. It's an interesting development, but however, I've been watching news reports and people who get together to discuss this little problem of Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, getting so personally involved and on the campaign trail. So the question was this: who is the leader of the Democratic Party in the United States? And most pundits are saying this: it's Barack Obama. So if he's the leader of the party, is he running for president? Can he run for president? It'll be an interesting constitutional problem. Technically speaking, it says no, but my experience here in Canada is even if there are constitutional restrictions, it doesn't seem to matter very much. In Canada here, in fact, our Constitution, written in 1867, actually it was not written by Canadians, it was written by the British. It's called the British North America Act, and it is based upon the Constitution of England. So it's based on the premise that the people are protected from the abuses of the Crown. The British Crown has been, since its inception, a despot. That's how we ended up with law. In fact, was a man named King John who was pressed into signing the document. He didn't want to sign it, but he did anyway. He pretty well had to, in fact. He had lost the confidence of things called the nobles, who had all of their own armies. The king himself did not have an army. He relied upon people called the nobles, who owned practically all the land. In fact, they didn't actually, because the king said all the land is his, King John, in fact. All the fish in the sea, all the deer on the land, all that stuff, it's all his. Everything is his. Mine, 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 me. And anyway, that's how we got to be where we are. But as in Canada, even the Supreme Court of Canada says we have a constitution, but nobody's ever observed it. The rules of the constitution have never seemed to have been applied here, so fuddle-duddle to all of it. It's really peculiar. Then we had a new constitution in 1981 to replace the one in 1867, but we're still referring to both constitutions. We seem to have two now. And the province called Quebec doesn't like it. They don't like the new constitution, even though it's written by one of their own, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who is the father of Justin Trudeau, our current prime minister. They don't like it. They want the British North America Act, and they have kept it. Now, just to tell you how fascists work, Pierre Elliott Trudeau decided that fuddle-duddle to Quebec. He used to use that word fuddle-duddle. It meant something else. You can work it out. His performance in Parliament was quite abusive and outrageous, in fact, many would say. But he got away with it anyway, because fascists do that. His son is no different. He refuses to answer questions. You know, things go south, obviously, because nobody wants to deal with these kind of people. However, let's just get back to, I'm diverging here, the American midterm elections that are coming up, and the interference of a former president, which isn't done. In fact, some people, when Obama is speaking, they'll say, "You are not the president anymore." Basically, you're supposed to take off, you know, go by a beach someplace, open a library. They all seem to do this. The presidents, when they retire, they open a library, and all that money from Saudi Arabia comes rushing into the library. I was amazed by this. For years now I've noticed these things like, why is it that when American presidents resign or retire, or whatever happens to them, they open a library, and the big benefactors to the libraries are the Saudi princes and the Saudi kings, I guess they called. It was always amazing to me. Perhaps some Americans out there know what that's for. I don't get what that's for, but there's got to be some reason. There has to be. So anyway, here's Donald Trump just recently, talking about Barack Obama shooting at him from the wings. It's almost like a play, isn't it? It's maybe not Shakespearean. However, I always love the Shakespeare quote. Shakespeare once said this: "When you think you've come to the end of humor, there will always be irony." And that's as true now as it's ever been. It's really wonderful. I love it because we're looking at it. We look at it every day, and some of the news media people are starting to back up a little bit. They're backing up because it looks to me like, they're not an unbiased group. They have a certain bias. Boy, do they have a bias. Did you know that Anderson Cooper, this gay man who's come out, he used to work for, he was an agent of some sort for, I believe it was the CIA. I don't think it was the FBI. I believe Anderson Cooper used to work for the CIA. And the CIA has a lot of problems, as we all know. So, anyway, let's go back to Donald Trump. He's not getting drawn into the fight as much as, and I've watched President Obama, the things that he says, which are quite inflammatory. Donald Trump doesn't take the bait. He doesn't go running after him. I've been thinking about this all day today. I thought, why doesn't he do that? I mean, it's goading you, right? It's goading you. And here in Canada, I have my problems with the government. I got involved a few years ago in a retraining program when we were all disenfranchised from the salmon fishery here on the west coast of Canada. And the Prime Minister of Canada, Jean Chrétien, also from Quebec, also a fascist, he put up $500 million for a retraining program, and I was part of it. All of the money disappeared. It came here. I found out, boy, and they fight you. The government of Canada, when you want information from this government, they fight you. Vigorously, as they say. I even ended up in court, and the judge just rubbed his nose, rubbed his eyes, looked at the clock, and looked back down at me, and if he had a rock, he'd have thrown it. Because judges in Canada do not want to interpret law. We do not do it in this country. Canada does not have law or rule of law. We don't have it. And so, eventually, I happened to fall upon a lawyer. I shouldn't say I fell upon him. It took me a while to find somebody. But this lawyer was really piqued. His interest was really up there. And he worked for a very prestigious law firm, way up the ladder. So he wanted to find out. And the more the government of Canada lied to him, and he's a lawyer, and this is his own words. You're not supposed to divulge these things, but it's up to me, since I hired him. He got lied to by the government of Canada. He was lied to. And they lied to me as well, but they lied to all Canadians, so it doesn't really matter anymore. We have a fascist dictatorship here. It's not going to change. There's no will to change it because there's too much money going to some very, very rich people. Justin Trudeau is taking bribes now. He got caught taking bribes. He doesn't apologize for it. Jean Chrétien used to take bribes, also a prime minister from Quebec. Brian Mulroney very famously take bribes, very famous. I think probably all of our leaders in Canada have been taking bribes for some years now. And this group we have, the police called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they're supposed to be monitoring this. They're supposed to be bringing charges, but they don't do it. They don't do it because the prime ministers of Canada have given them unchecked and uncontrolled power over the people. Now, who doesn't want ultimate power? Who doesn't want it? So they got drunk on this power they have. They're still drunk on it. And they won't stop. I'm surprised they're not busting my door down. See the hat? That hat was on my coffee table a couple of days ago. It's up here with the rest of my hats. Anyway, I'm going to have to run off in a minute because I have to do one after this. I just wanted to bring up this fight between President Obama and Donald Trump. And President Obama's acting like he's a presidential candidate. I watch him do this. That, I don't think you're permitted to run for election. There's probably a way around it. There's usually when there's lots of skullduggery happening. And why isn't Robert Mueller investigating this person, Stormy Daniels, who has a history with Barack Obama from 2016? I bet you didn't know that. She has a connection to him. He had a personal meeting with her before she ever became famous. Yeah? And her porn star lawyer. That's what he does. He represents porn stars. That's an interesting thing. Anyway, we're going to see how this plays out. I like the stir because, it's all coming to the top. And we get to see it. It's because egos get involved here. Barack Obama's ego is huge. When I listen to him talk, I think, my God Almighty, who the hell are you? How did you ever get so biggie big? Whoever bigged you? And my Prime Minister here in Canada, Justin Trudeau, has a huge ego. And when they got together for their state dinner, that looked like a naughty night out. Justin Trudeau has a little history of being attracted to what he calls handsome men. So his wife, in fact, stepped in between him and another man once, and very famously it was on film, and I've watched it. I thought, I'm not sure how this woman manages to control her man. I love that. Anyway, I'm going to get going. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have some fun in life. I'm trying to, we're all trying to make a living and all this. It's very difficult. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Toodly-doo.